Chapter 2. Being good at being with each other. (2011), mid-February, county jail. I woke up cold. It was the dead of winter with a snowstorm fast approaching, so those both seemed like good reasons for me to be cold. But that wasn't it. The sting of my first court date was fresh. Even with the layers of madness still running through my head, I could see that I caused a lot of pain and social disturbance. It was definitely unsettling to be in the center ring of this circus I created. But that wasn't the chill I was feeling. It was something else. I knew I'd see her today. At some point, a guard would call my name, apply the shackles, and present me to her. And then I'd have to somehow communicate the truth of what really happened. All while they're listening to every word. Maybe it's not safe for her to see me, I said aloud in my cell. Or were they listening to me here too? But just to be safe, I decided to keep my voice to the inside of my mind, but I kept talking all the same. But wait, wasn't she dead or a clone? I discussed within. If I was wrong and she really is alive, was I wrong about anything else? My thoughts were going too deep. I mean, I could be in trouble here. They're telling me a man is in a coma and I'm responsible. That psych ops team must be behind this whole thing. How am I going to get the password out when I'm stuck in here? I continued this line of thinking on repeat. The guard called me on my intercom. Stoltzner, visit. The shackles went on. I was led a short distance to the booth. I sat on the hard metal stool as I watched her walk down the hall towards me. Now the whole world faded as she sat down too, locked my eyes, and put the telephone receiver to her lips. Are they feeding you okay? She asked after a shy hello. I complained about not being able to smoke. I don't know what to say, see, this is a lot to try and handle, she told me with a complete understandable honesty. It's kind of hard for me too, I'm not even sure what's going on, I protested. I don't know how to make sense of this. What happened to you while you were out at John's? She pleaded for the reason behind all of this suffering. The pain in her eyes was more than enough proof of how dearly she loved me. This quickly put to rest any fear that the psych ops team, or whomever else could be listening, may ruin my life even further. I needed to give her a little clarity, so I thought for a second and went with the first thing that came to mind that she'd understand. It was all in that book, The Matrix Energetics. It worked. (2010), early April, a thrift store in Grass Valley. Hey Eli, what's up? I answered mechanically before it was illegal to talk on the phone and drive in the state of California. Oh, nothing much. What are you doing? He asked. I just bought a sweet leather wallet from a thrift store. It's got kind of a tropical floral print on it. I don't know. I'm driving. I only checked it out for a minute. I told him to no related response. I've got that show in San Francisco tonight. Are you coming with? He asked with a panic in his voice. Well, I don't know, I started to say, but got interrupted. I'll get you dinner. How about one of those burritos from the place by the college? Sound good? He pressured me for an answer. Yeah, okay. When do we need to leave by? I asked. An hour if we can, Eli answered. An hour? Okay, I'll meet you at your house. I've got to go home and get ready, I said as I returned to focus on my driving. We made pretty good time to the city, but the local traffic slowed us down some, and we arrived at the venue with little time to prepare. As Eli was setting up his musical gear, I stood alone in the empty wooden hall and waited until we could go outside for a cigarette. From across the room, I saw Mary and Frank enter and approach the stage. Mary had set up the evening's entertainment and would be playing after Eli. She was another folk singer from Nevada City. She wrote convincingly, lyrically descriptive music. She had long black hair and a caramel complexion. She allowed others' perceptions of her to be their realities. Frank was a little bit too friendly, as if there was an urgency for him to make new personal connections. I found it off-putting, but he was a cool enough dude beyond my first impressions. He was around my height, with a head of wavy brown hair. He liked to talk of his eclectic taste in new age music as he passed around his glass-blown weed pipe with a baby blue dolphin on it. Eli struggled to get his sampler up and running, so Mary saw to his needs. As she did, Frank reintroduced himself as we stood off to the side of the stage and casually talked as new people came and went around us. Then suddenly, I lost his complete attention. Hey Roxy, you made it. It's so good to see you, he shouted so she'd hear him over the noise of Eli's sampler. She walked in the room in a slim white dress covered in black polka dots and approached me from my blind spot, not being revealed until I heard her name. All of the atoms in the room, which had previously laid dormant in wooden planks, came to life and warped around the heavy cosmic weight of this heavenly manifested earthly inhabitant. Her golden blonde hair and half-faded sunglasses hid a good part of her face. Once she drew near, I got the first scent of the perfume that would immediately start to intoxicate me. She was happy to be among friends and smiled brightly. As everyone fawned over her presence, I felt too insignificant of a human being to be a part of her world, and just kind of wanted to wander off. But once I heard her southern accent, I decided I needed to fight my introverted urge to leave and wait my turn to be introduced. So you're Roxy. I'm friends with John. He's mentioned you, I said as I shook her hand softly. Yeah, I've heard of you too. You're that Cobra fellow, she replied. The show was about to start and the performers only had a few minutes to finish sound checking, so Roxy asked me if I'd like to get a drink. I ordered my beer, but when it came time for me to pay, I opened the elaborately crafted floral wallet I had just bought and realized I forgot to put anything in it, most importantly being the $10 I had to my name. Hey, this is going to sound stupid, but I just got this wallet today and I forgot to put money in it, I coyly started to explain. Yeah, man, no problem, she told me as she paid the bartender for my drink. I did have cigarettes, so we took our drinks out to the patio as she made note that she rarely indulged herself with them, but she would tonight. John? I've known him for a while now, same with Mary. I met them both around the same time I started hanging around the Nevada City scene, I told Roxy as I took short drags off my cigarette. I've known Eli forever. We work on each other's musical projects when we can. He's going to be helping me out with my new band, Metalluia. Metalluia, that's a righteous band name. What kind of music do you guys play? She asked. It's turning out to be some kind of metal band with an air of whimsy, programmed beats, and a bunch of synth keyboards, I explained. Yeah, I just gave up on my band. It was too much work and headache. I don't really want to talk about it, she said shyly. But tell me more about Metalluia. That sounds like fun. Not much more to tell. If I had a guitar in my hand, I'd play you some. When I'm not doing that, I've got my art studio at St. Joseph's, I said. I've been there. Years ago, Roxy commented. Oh, cool, so you know the vibe there. I make a kind of psychedelic, pointillist pop art. I've done a few album covers for Eli, I said. Oh yeah, I've seen those, she told me. My other plan is to do an outdoor pot grow this summer to pay for my Metalluia record. I've done indoor before, but never outdoor, so I'm excited to give that a try, I explained. Well, that sounds great. The music business is such a different game if you own your own record, she said. What about you? What occupies your life? I asked. Well, I was staying at John's place. He was a great host and I had a lovely time. But I got a house-sitting gig in the Berkeley Hills I couldn't turn down. It's a lovely house with a good vibe and a sweet cat. I'm just now getting settled and waiting to see what comes next, she vaguely elaborated. Just then, Mary found us. There you two are. We're all set up and have drinks waiting at the bar. Come and join us. Now that the cigarettes we smoked were nothing more than ash, we took up a couple empty seats at the bar with Mary, Frank, and Eli. As the opening act was getting going, Roxy and Mary were busy in each other's ears. This is when Eli had some news he had to share with me. So you and Roxy seem to be hitting it off, he noted. Yeah, she's great. Why? I asked, hoping not to jinx anything. You know she's from the band Pure Silver, right? Eli enlightened me. My eyes suddenly lost all focus as my head turned sharply back to the left as if I'd bitten into a ripe lemon. I wasn't sure how to process this. When Roxy told me she had retired from her band, I just assumed she had given up on the grind of trying to make it. I never thought she was retiring because she was sick of the life she'd been cursed to after already making it. Pure Silver. I'd never given them much attention. I'd heard a couple of their songs and seen them on a few magazine covers. My last girlfriend, Kim, liked them, but I often dismissed her taste due to her young age. Pure Silver. Eli gave me a moment to think about it. Her hair and polka-dotted dress were a departure from her former psych hippie style. I liked her a lot, but I kind of didn't think much of her band. As I thought about it more, Eli and I were interrupted, so I had to file these thoughts to the to-be-continued section of my mind. The next few hours were a quiet celebration of Roxy and I just standing there, then dancing while our eyes met often as we shared immediate smiles. She carried a relaxed and upbeat vibe about her. She could appreciate humor and had a genuine laugh. I liked her. I thought since I'd probably never see her again, my best and only course of action was to try and kiss her by the end of the night. But as quickly as the music ended, I was standing in an alley with Roxy, Mary, Frank, and Eli, who were all waiting to get paid. I didn't have that good moment to try that bold kiss. Then a homeless man started yelling at us all, and Roxy made an urgent goodbye to everyone and left. "This sucks," I told Eli in the car. "I met a woman I like, and she's got to be way out of my league." "I don't know, C. She seemed pretty into you tonight." He disagreed strongly. "Yeah, I can only woo a woman in short bursts, but the overall arc of my life is probably tanking. She might not see that tonight, but I can only juggle my shortcomings for so long before I'll scare her away. I'm not sure it's worth the trouble," I explained my inevitable conclusion. "Don't get defeated over nothing. You're the guy everybody wants to bet on right now. Pretty soon Metalluya will be up and running. You'll have your garden growing fat, and you'll finally get that first big art show. I know it. You're going to have your pick of women. I don't think you'll need to find a better way to woo Roxy. I think she's going to have to find a way to woo you." 2011. Mid-February, county jail. After my visit with Roxy, it was all I could think about, mostly because I couldn't remember what I actually told her. After her first couple of questions, it quickly dissolved into a giant rant about WikiLeaks, the Emerald Tablets, children's Valentine's Day cards, and protecting God from something. I guess the newspaper had more right than I was ready to admit. But she was coming to visit me again. Now I needed to focus. I needed to say the right things and give her a good reason to stand by my side. I needed this do-over to help her understand what was really going on. The snowstorm had finally moved in, and it was interrupting my visit. I couldn't see anything other than how important this visit was going to be to Roxy and my future. With just enough time for the full 30-minute visit, Roxy and Starla showed. But on both sides of the glass, the visit would be directed by our agendas over the harsh emotions of it all. Roxy graciously allowed me to try to explain it all again, for a few minutes at least. I could tell she would have been open to some version of our shared lover's reality, but I was giving her little to work with. She told me she was out of money and had lined up some work back in Mendocino, and that she'd be leaving after the snowstorm. She reminded me she didn't get any cell reception, and then she asked if I remembered her new number. I tried to pick up my explanation where she cut me off, but she stopped me again. "I need to know that you're going to be all right," she said. I just looked at her for a quick second. Why wouldn't I? This is all going to turn out fine, and soon everyone will see that I'm not crazy. She gave me a little more time to speak my piece. I would have liked to have heard more of hers, but she started to put back on her mittens and reminded me that she needed to get going before the snowstorm outside got worse. "The only thing I need you to know is you're my sister in Christ, and I'll understand whatever you have to do," I told her in all sincerity. With that, she mechanically told me she loved me, handed Starla the phone, got up and walked down the narrow hallway to some place far from me and my impending problems. I did pretty good, I thought. I'll see her again soon after I release the password and all this court stuff gets settled. She probably thinks she needs to hide out for a bit to keep me safe in the meantime. That made the most sense, so that's what I went with. 2010. Late April, Nevada City. Tommy and my sisters, Starla and Sandy, were over at my manufactured house watching something funny on TV. It seemed like we were all in a better place than we were after Mom died. My current emotional stability was now reliant on my recent marijuana habit, and because of this, I was oblivious of how my sisters were actually coping with the loss. Just as long as we're all finding something to laugh about, I figured things were fine. I was also making some good progress on new Metalluya music with Tommy, which eased tensions between Starla and me. I liked Tommy and was fine with him as a partner for Starla. It just took a while to get over everything. I had problems with my last cell phone, mostly revolving around the fact that I never had the money to pay the bill. My dad talked me into replacing it with one of those prepaid burner phones. "It'll be much cheaper for you. I'll even buy you the phone," he told me. Now, instead of missing a payment and not having a phone for a month, I'd have to constantly buy phone cards, and when I was broke, I'd be without a phone till I could come up with an extra $10. It was a slightly better system in theory, but involved a lot of extra legwork. So there we were watching something funny on TV when my roommate interrupted us. I just got a text from Eli that says, "Tell Cobra that Roxy is at the show at the Crazy Horse." "Let's go," Tommy exclaimed. Almost a month had gone by since we met. My friends were aware of the situation. I talked about it enough to show my hand and desire for Roxy. I'd even sent messages to Mary and John asking them about her, and for whatever reason, she was currently right down the street. The four of us were quickly on the move. The show was ending when we arrived, and we easily found Roxy standing outside the Crazy Horse with Glenn. Glenn was another artist from the area. He did mostly video work. He was tall, thin, and obviously too intelligent to say the words in his brain fast enough. He usually dropped in on the Nevada City scene a couple times a year and stirred up minor drama. I liked him. He was fun. Now here he was with Roxy, who we had just met out at John's place on the coast. He was without a car and trying to make his way to his mom's house in Nevada City when Roxy volunteered to drive him. It seemed to be convenient cover for her to run into me again, but she wouldn't admit this immediately. Glenn told us about an after-party, so we grabbed a few beers at the gas station and met them there. As the night progressed, Roxy and I couldn't stop finding stuff to talk and laugh about. My sisters, Tommy and Glenn, all played their part and helped to keep the night casual. As the party died down, I moved the whole operation over to my garage where I was beginning work on a music video project. I was asked to design a background set for a music video idea a friend had, and I was using my childhood Legos as the medium. After some encouragement, everybody got to work building me Lego things to use, as Roxy and I kept talking. The stars are still out. Any moment now, we're going to see the first evidence of the sun. I told Roxy after a fun, late night of entertaining as we walked out of my garage onto the driveway. "Oh, I love this time of night, when the whole thing starts to change over," she said. "I think I'm beat," Glenn said as he got in the passenger seat of Roxy's car. "Yeah, I'm coming," she said to Glenn. "Thanks for having us." "Do you know where you're going?" I asked. "Yeah, Glenn's mom lives down the street. I think he's with it enough to get us there," she said softly. "What are you doing tomorrow?" I asked. "Nothing. Why, do you want to do this again?" I used the faint light from my nearby bedroom window to lean in and finally kiss her. This action was warmly received, and I quickly surveyed a map of her mouth. "That's what I really wanted to do, but yes, you should come back tomorrow," I told her. "Okay, I've got your number. I'll call you later." She took a step back and grabbed the car door's handle. "Now get some sleep, it's late." "I will once I see the sunrise." I took a step back as she fired the engine, and I watched the car climb my steep driveway. There was just so much to say before giving in to the inevitable coupling of our souls. For now, an early morning kiss would be plenty. It also helped that my sisters had fallen asleep in my bed. I could wait for that level of escalation. I'd forgotten my cell phone didn't work because I needed to buy more minutes, but I gave this up as a problem for later in the morning where I'd have the whole day to figure it out. But now I was going to bed satisfied in knowing that I found someone apparently as into me as I was into her. "Hey, sorry, I'm just calling now. We went over to Glenn's dad's house for dinner and my phone gets shoddy service out in the sticks. What are you doing? Should we head back over?" Roxy told me over the phone around 8. Tonight she wore her black Gravedigger t-shirt with an olive green skirt. As always, she hid her eyes behind her brown faded prescription sunglasses and her recent blonde hair that she was getting sick of. "I think I want some bangs," she said half jokingly and half inquisitively as she opened the tequila. "I'll do it," I said. "My sister Sandy cuts hair. I think it runs in the family." There was a lot at stake. I didn't want to mess things up, but I wanted to show I could handle some pressure. The tequila kept things lively as I made a few choice cuts. She was happy with my efforts, and I was ready to relax after a hard 15 minutes worth of work. We socialized a bit after this. There were a few other people over, and we didn't want to make things too obvious. After the beer ran out and the tequila bottle ran dry, the mood finally mellowed, and I grabbed Roxy's hand and gently pulled it back towards my bedroom. I didn't get any resistance. We kissed until we fell asleep, completely forgetting that there was anything more for two human beings to delight in. I woke up the next morning to Roxy's big brown eyes looking directly into mine. "Come to Berkeley with me," she asked. I had to postpone a few minor obligations to go, and when she stopped to pick up her stuff from Glenn's mom, I called my dad and begged him for some cash. He agreed, and we made another quick stop with him, then some food and coffee. The last thing I needed to do was send a few texts that I'd be gone for a few days, then turned off my phone, and we were on our way. Once we were on the interstate, we held hands till Alameda County. As we drove, I picked up bits and pieces of who Roxy was and what I was getting into. First, the car. It wasn't her car. It belonged to Liam. Liam played drums in Faith's band. It was Faith's house that Roxy was taking care of. They were currently on tour. Faith had a big hit in the 90s, and Liam played in one of my all-time favorite bands. This wasn't my first glimpse of success, but still a big one. It was definitely a reminder that even if being in pure silver didn't mean much to me, it did to others. I was so in awe of what I was feeling for her that I paid little attention to the surrounding details. Until now, it had been 3 nights of drinks, parties, and laughter, but we are finally alone, driving 70 miles per hour to somewhere new and in the pauses between each other's sentences, imagining our new life together. Even though I'd only known her a short while, I discovered how to read her mood by her expressive laughter. It was a language unto itself. The key was inadvertently stumbled onto as I held her hand while we drove. A quick little finger tickle into the palm of her hand would get me the most delightful squeal, but I knew enough not to take advantage of it. Also, when she got excited about something, she couldn't help but laugh through the ends of her sentences, and then sometimes to acknowledge an obvious point, she'd get real boisterous and end her conclusions with 3 short, deep chuckles. Just a few things I was noticing. Narrow streets led us up the Berkeley Hills. She parked Liam's gray Volvo in his spot in the driveway. There was a new gate to the small courtyard in front of the house. It had just been installed while she was with me, but it was left unlocked and the key waited inside. This was Faith's second home. She was burnt out in LA and needed a change. It was still a work in progress, but there was no need to improve the view she had of San Francisco. As we entered and walked down the glossy hardwood floors to the music instrument-laden living room, it was all over. The perfect place to fall in love. I wouldn't say we were tired from the drive, just happy to have been freed from the tease of only getting to touch each other's hands. We took up residency on the couch and just stared into each other's eyes while smiling for a bit. Then I heard a new laugh, one I'd never hear again, a laugh that told me she was giving herself to me completely. So I gave her new name, our code to each other. Ta, 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 ta. It's kind of like Morse code when you speak it, but I think we should spell it differently, I told Roxy on the couch. Spell what? She asked. Your new pet name. It's just 4 ta when whispered or 4 taps on a table at a party, but I think we should spell it differently. TXTX. I like that, I explained. What does it mean? She wanted to know. It's our secret to each other and my promise to you, one we don't need to explain to anyone. As we sat together on the couch and looked out on the whole San Francisco skyline, I was aware that I'd discovered a personal treasure so vast and radiant that for me at that moment, there wasn't another in a nearby city or place I've traveled to compare to her and the expanding love she'd awoken in me. Do you really need that cigarette? Roxy whispered as she turned to me under the white cotton sheets. I guess not, I said as I stood up out of bed and started putting on my pants. I'm just going to the bathroom real quick. Don't be gone too long, I miss you already, Roxy said a bit louder. Once I returned, I took a drink of water from our communal glass on the edge of the table and picked up my pack of smokes, giving them a shake. I thought you didn't need that cigarette, Roxy said as she opened her eyes again. I saw the clock. Can you believe it's almost 3? I haven't had one since breakfast. All things considered, I think that's a big enough accomplishment. I'll just be gone for a second. You'll hardly notice I'm gone, I explained as I rummaged through our pile of clothes on the floor to find a shirt. You're not just leaving those butts on the ground. I don't want to be responsible if Faith finds one of those things. Roxy rolled over, exposing me to her bare back. Come on, I told you I'm on my best behavior. You've got nothing to worry about, I said as I checked my pockets for my orange lighter. Yeah, famous last words, Roxy muttered as I left the room. We spent 3 blissful days together before she returned me to my now seemingly void of an existence. But the love I discovered in Berkeley would be my motivation to keep going. On the drive home, I was comfortable enough to ask questions about Banner, the creative force behind Pure Silver. Roxy was hesitant to say much. I didn't want to push her. It had just come up in conversation. She grabbed a Bible from the back seat and opened it up to a couple pictures of them she liked. She told me Banner had given her that Bible and deep down he was a good guy. But on the surface, he was troubled. I was happy to let the topic drop. Once we got to my house and settled in, I got a call that a bunch of people were getting together at the National Bar. This was not uncommon for a Wednesday night, and I asked Roxy if she wanted to go out for a bit. We both tried to seamlessly rejoin civilized society, but we were still in our own little world together. It was like every other voice but hers was just ringing in my ears. We couldn't keep our eyes off each other. I think we stayed for 45 minutes. Cobra, looks like you finally got yourself out of town. How did that go? Cole asked me candidly from the end of the bar. Great, I'm crazy about her, I told him. Wow, I never thought I'd see the day a woman finally caught her hooks in you. It's a pretty wild pairing. Be careful, Cole advised. Yeah, I guess. It's been kind of a whirlwind thing. I haven't had time to think about it all, I replied. By the next afternoon, Roxy really had to get back to the cat she was supposed to be watching. She had used up all the goodwill Faith's friend would lend in coming by twice a day for Roxy to be out gallivanting around with some new guy. Part of me was glad to get a break. I was exhausted from being so happy all the time. Before she got in the car, she took out a white handkerchief with an embroidered R, sprayed it with her perfume, Egyptian musk. She gave it to me as we kissed and whispered soft goodbyes. I waved as Liam's car climbed my steep driveway, hearing the motor work and coast until she was briefly visible through the trees at the bottom of the property. After all the sounds of the engine died away, I put the handkerchief to my face and the memory of the last 6 days rushed back. 2011. Late February and onward, County Jail. Now that Roxy had left to pursue her financial needs, I didn't know how to keep motivated. Jail was a constant head trip. Nothing to do for 23 hours a day, but think about all facets of what had happened. Hours of nothing but replaying the tape, the sweat lodge, the fire tornado, the story of King Cat. I had bared witness to the inner workings of God's universal mind. Why had it all turned on me? Then the story would change of one of pointless suffering to my life as a sacrifice to the greater good, a needed vessel in aid of WikiLeaks. I could rest a little easier if I knew it wasn't all for nothing. Then a random noise, like the flush of a toilet or the slamming of a cell door, would startle me, and I'd have to start my grand delusion over. When I was arrested, I didn't have my glasses. The first few weeks of jail were difficult without them. Right before her trip, Roxy and I had recently bought ourselves new pairs. This was the most distracting part of my visit with her. Seeing her in them, she didn't look like the woman I fell in love with. Starla had dropped off my new pair, but they took a while to get to me. Once I had them, it was like I had a piece of Roxy with me because she'd picked them out. I set them on my little metal desk in the corner of my cell and I'd wave to her, thinking that she'd be able to see me from the pair I picked out for her. At one point, the guards shackled me, put me in a van, and brought me to the local hospital to get a CAT scan. The driver took a corner too hard and my new glasses flew off my face, coming apart when they hit the floor. From then on, they were always problematic and a good representation of what our lives apart were turning into. If I sat on my small metal desk and looked out the window sharply to the left, I could see the parking lot of the county building where Starla worked. I'd often see her walking with her coworkers or driving into work. Sometimes I'd see my friends meeting up with her directly in front of the jail. As they'd talk, I wondered what these uninducted new visitors were thinking about my situation. Then, as a sharp pain would stab my neck, I'd have to turn it back away from the window. I was in a surprisingly good mood when they called me down to booking. 2 plain-clothed detectives were waiting. Just the 2 of them being there was a show of force, so they forego any more theatrics and just told me, "You're being charged with murder," one of them said as they handed me an official document to remind me it was really true and I was being held responsible. This was devastating. I'd been praying nonstop that God would miraculously spare me for my misguided actions. I just stood there for a minute, knowing it was true but hoping the detectives would finally end my suffering. But they did no such thing. I made it back to my cell before the first rush of tears hit me, but coming to terms with this charge would take a long time to accept. I reluctantly pressed on. Lily worked for the county's public defender's office. She could wear a stern face. She had brown, shoulder-length hair that accompanied a blazer and a black skirt. Her voice carried the weight of the authority that had been trusted to her. I needed every bit of the counsel she could spare. When I was finally able to sit down with her, she opened up with the harsh reality of my case. "You're in a lot of trouble, Mr. Stoltzner. I saw the interrogation video. You basically confessed to the whole thing," she said harshly. I protested that I had been tricked by the detectives. "You were not. You told them you'd talk for a cigarette," she reminded me. This was true. During my time waiting to see her, she had done her homework. Then she laid out the basic evidence. I don't think to berate me, just to show me it was a pretty open and shut case. Then she offered a potential solution. "If this is some sort of mental break, there are other options we could look at, but they're difficult and take a while." Lily paused. I remained silent for her conclusion. "I'm going to send a psychiatrist I work with. He's a good man. Feel free to tell him anything," she told me in a confident tone. The guards brought me to their doctor on a TV. He told me I was probably schizophrenic and I needed some medication, I replied. "Did you take them?" she asked. "No, I don't think my girlfriend wants me to." I said, recalling a random conversation I once had with Roxy. See, we need to build a case for your insanity. Let's wait and see how you do in here. This has to work. You won't make it in prison. Lily packed up her case of files. Hang in there, Mr. Stoltzner. Even without Roxy, I had the support of my family and friends. I was getting as many visits as was allowed and got to see a wide variety of people I've known. On one occasion, I got to talk with Cole. He too was trying to wrap his head around everything and had a poignant question for me as our visit was coming to an end. I wonder what you think about, he asked, mystified. Minutes later, when I was back in my cell, I thought I'd pay attention to my thoughts so I could report them to Cole. With this newfound attention, I was able to get a glimpse into the window of my insanity. All I did, over and over again, was retell the story I wanted to hear, a story that supported the idea that I was working for WikiLeaks, a story where I was special and that things were going to work out to my amazing benefit. As I laid there observing my thoughts, I began to question them. If it's all really real and I am working for WikiLeaks, why did I have to feel that overbearing depression out on John's cliff? And was that a real UFO in the neighbor's yard? And that voice I heard, was it really mine from the future or just my imagination? It was a lot to suddenly be thinking about. It took over a month for Lily's doctor to have the time to see me. Over a couple hour-long sessions, I told him everything about my offense I'd been running through my head. I was genuinely interested in his conclusion. I was still monitoring my thoughts and questioning my sanity most of the time, but then I'd see something random like an ad for a particular hardware store or a certain episode of the Andy Griffith Show, and I'd be back in the reality of WikiLeaks, a reality where I'd become a 21st century American pop culture shaman. Lily's doctor was kind and let me explain what I thought had taken place. I brought up Roxy's pair of heavy-duty goggles I said I was wearing during the incident. I told him it's possible that the psych ops team played the whole event behind the lenses and I didn't really do it. That was enough for him to conclude that I was incompetent to stand trial for my actions. 1999. The end of the millennium around Nevada County. The summer after my senior year was quickly coming to an end. While I was ignoring that I had my whole life ahead of me, my mother very kindly informed me that community college was starting in 2 weeks and I should stop by and see what classes they still had available. Most classes were already full, but I was able to enroll in nutrition, earth science, music theory, and ear training. Now that I had taken this decisive action, a friend from church told me they were looking for courtesy clerks at the grocery store where she worked and I should stop by. I did and filled out an application. My interview went well enough, and by the time summer was over, I was working and in school. Bagging groceries was enjoyable, and I did it well. All of the cashiers were appreciative when I'd be at their check stand helping out. I came home tired after every shift, but I was developing a good work ethic. School was school, and it didn't take me long to start struggling in nutrition and earth science. I really connected with the instructor of the music theory class. He was effective in teaching students how to think about a subject, and even though I sat there loving it, I did little homework and performed below my needed ability. One night after work, I bopped over to the diner and saw my friends sitting in their normal booth, so I went over and joined them. "Did you see him?" one of them said. "Who?" I asked, not knowing if I was interrupting an ongoing conversation. "Eli, from when we were kids. I told you he was back in town. He's got a new band. I guess people are really into them. He's sitting over there," they explained. I looked. It was him. I wanted to go over and say hello, but I felt dirty and gross in my work clothes. I ordered a hamburger and had an empty, nagging thought about it all. "We already said hi. Go on over. I'm sure it'll be cool," I was encouraged. Eli was sitting in one of the big booths with a bunch of hipsters I recognized from around town. He had on a brown faded t-shirt and wore his thick black hair neatly parted off to the side. I sheepishly went over. "Excuse me, Eli, do you remember me? I'm C. Our parents used to be friends," I said. "Yeah, we've got baby pictures together," Eli reminded me. After a few minutes of becoming reacquainted, Eli told me we should play music sometime. I took the torn corner of a napkin with his number and told him he'd hear from me soon. I went back to my table where my burger was ready, and with an extra sense of satisfaction, I ate. Even though I'd grown up with Eli, it took a while to get accepted into the music scene. It even took a while to realize the extent of the music scene. One day I was rounding up grocery carts at work and saw a show flyer promoting Eli's band the upcoming weekend. He hadn't told me about it. Plus, I hadn't heard back after leaving a few messages on his machine, so I figured I should just show up. I said my hellos, met a few new people, and found out when and where the next local show was going to be. It was very awkward standing off to the side by myself, but this was the only way I saw to be in the vicinity of like-minded people, so I kept at it. Even with work, school, and the occasional show, I had a lot of boring nights and went to many movies by myself. It's never taken much for me to feel like I was worthless, but this period of my life had a lot of the needed ingredients. But I persisted. 2010. May and June. Downtown, the river, and then Big Sur. Over the summer, Roxy and I found ways to get together every couple of weeks. Money was a problem. I had no proper employment and had placed all of my eggs in the pot cultivation basket. It sounded like an easy enough plan at first. Plant the clones in the large canvas bags with dirt from last year, drive out and water a few times a week, and then when they're ready, cut them up and make money. What could complicate that? Gas. I was driving around way too much. 20 minutes out to my dad's, another 20 minutes in a different direction to the garden, and then 30 minutes home. I know it doesn't sound like that unreasonable of a routine. I just had too little cash to support myself in doing this. Roxy could see the big picture, that this was my chance to have the money to pay for my own record and not be beholden to anyone. At least she got it. Mid-May, Roxy found a couple days to break away from feeding Faith's cat and looking out across the bay at San Francisco. After trying out the domestic life at my house for most of the trip, I thought we should go out and do something different. I was aware that she'd been downtown Nevada City plenty of times, so instead I took her to Grass Valley's downtown area for a change of scenery. As we mulled around, she noticed a small shop that sold a treat she'd never heard of. "Pasty? What's a pasty?" she exclaimed with humor in her voice. "You mean to tell me you've been coming to Nevada County for years and you've never had a pasty? Who have you been hanging out with? Pasties are great. They're what the gold miners used to eat down in the mines. They're a food from Cornwall, England. Meat, potatoes, onions, veggies, and seasonings all wrapped up in pie dough, baked, and then served with malt vinegar and ketchup," I explained with sincere passion. "I like that the ladies working here have funny hats. I'll give it a try just for that," she said as we walked past the door. The pasty shop mostly does carryout. They only have 3 small yellow tables to eat at. We ordered off the old yellow menu board that's been around since I was a kid, then grabbed one of the empty tables. "You know I lost all my good rings? I used to have the coolest rings. Banner threw them down the hills into Laurel Canyon," Roxy bravely told me. "Why'd you do that?" I asked. "You know, I just quit the band and he was mad. He knew I loved them. I had taken them off and they were just sitting on the edge of the table and he did it to get back at me," she explained. The food arrived and I started to eat as she kept talking about the difficulties of working with Banner and Pure Silver. It's funny how food quickly lowers a person's attention, or does with me at least. Roxy took small bites of her food. As she talked, and when she did, I'd offer words of support and commiseration for her difficulties in the past. I was putting together that for her, my sometimes rowdy reputation made her feel safe and hopefully it would keep Banner out of her new life. We went on with the rest of our day, and I was strongly heartened that she would feel so comfortable to share so much. I thought over time we'd continue to address these feelings, but that never happened. After she was done and had finished eating, this was the only time Roxy would ever talk about the band and her old life with any detail or openness. What I thought was something new growing between us was the closing off of her past. She left that afternoon, and I was back to counting nickels to hopefully buy a cheap beer at the end of the evening. But my visits with her made everything I disliked about my life worth it. Nevada City's crown jewel is easily the Yuba River. Winding, forested canyons that meet in piles of large granite boulders and the cool rushing waters of the Sierra Nevada mountain snowpack. Besides her love of crystal clusters and the small vinyl record collection she was able to leave the band with, the South Fork of the Yuba River was quickly rising on Roxy's list of favorite things. We went as often as we could when she was in town. "I don't think I've got many more years in me, so I'm getting my money's worth now. We're having too good of a time for me to be stuck under an umbrella," Roxy said as she applied sunscreen. "Do you want me to do you too?" "I don't know, doesn't it just wash right off when you get in the water? I think I'll skip the middleman," I said with a responding look of disappointment. "But don't think that lets you off the hook. I'm still expecting your hands all over me later tonight. And you'll get them too," Roxy put away the bottle. "Are we jumping off any rocks today?" "Rocks? Who do you think you're dating, Tarzan?" I playfully asked her. "No, he swung on vines," she challenged me. "You're thinking of someone else." "I don't think I ever saw it, Tarzan. Are you sure he didn't jump off any rocks?" I tried to defend my position. "He might have, a couple times," Roxy said, chuckling. "But he's the vine guy. Everybody knows that." "Okay, I give." I stood up. I'll jump off the regular-sized ones, but nothing crazy or even semi-crazy. I only look like a wild man. I took Roxy's hand to help her up. A couple of Roxy's friends were putting on a music festival atop a cliff in Big Sur and asked her to be a part of it. She was hesitant. Pure Silver's breakup still ached like a fresh wound, but they were able to talk her into playing a set of gospel music on her acoustic guitar early that Sunday morning before everyone left the campground. In her mind, this would be her proper retirement as a musical performer. Roxy's friends were going to play with her, and she asked me to sit in too. I hadn't traveled much since becoming a stoner. I wasn't even sure what the laws were regarding marijuana possession. I had been given a big black garbage bag of last year's pot trimmings from my outdoor grow partners. Given the time and motivation, you could pick through it and still find some nuggets to get stoned off of. This garbage bag was making my alternative arts lifestyle obtainable, but I was also aware of the low-class nature of this existence. "Hey, should I bring some weed to this thing, or do you think there'll be enough?" I asked Roxy over the phone. "Weed? No, it's a music festival. There should be a bunch. I wouldn't stress about bringing any," she answered. "There's also going to be food vendors. We'll get vouchers since we're playing. I'm not even bringing all that much." We showed up poorly prepared. There was only an Indian food vendor. It was great food, but that's all we ate for 3 days. I also couldn't track down any weed. I might have if I wasn't such a crabby introvert around large groups of unknown people. So I mainly listened to the music from the distance of Liam's car as Roxy came and went with her friends and occasionally brought me simple offerings like a warm beer or a rescued half of a joint. "It sure does look pretty like this," Roxy said from the deep space outside the bonfire. "I love that all the shadows stretch as they come near us." "Yeah, we're bred to like fire. I think it's in our DNA or something," I imagined aloud. "It will go fine tomorrow. I'm not worried about it. It will go fine," Roxy pep-talked herself. "You're just going to sing about Jesus to a bunch of hungover hippies. They'll love it," I reassured her. "Yeah, it'll go fine tomorrow," Roxy said for the last time. As we watched the festivities from the distance of Liam's car, I leaned up against the back hatch and Roxy against me, our fingers interlaced as I held her tight. As we waited for nothing but the morning, a DJ interrupted our stillness by playing Pure Silver's most popular song over the PA system, and people all over the campground started to cheer loudly. "Look, they're already excited. Everybody's going to love it in the morning," I told Roxy as I kissed her in the bright blue light of the moon and the faint orange glow of the bonfire. "See, it's been a wild ride getting this far in my life. All I know is I'm happy being with you. I thought I'd forgotten what that felt like. But music isn't for me anymore. I don't know where I'm trying to get to, but I'm just excited to keep looking and find it together."